All right, we are live. Welcome, Sue. Welcome, everyone who is watching. So I'm Corey Walmsley. I'm the CEO of Aurora Coriolis Publishing House. And today we have Sue Henry with us. And she is going to be sharing about her business, her book, and about podcasts. And we haven't talked about this in the group before. And I thought Sue would be the perfect person to talk about it. So welcome, Sue.
Thank you, Corey. I am so excited. Sometimes you just have that connection. And when we had chatted before, I just thought, oh my gosh, I wish I had known you when I was going down that path when I was writing my own book, because it would have made it a lot easier.
Yeah.
So I am just so excited by what you offer everyone and how you just make so much sense in creating their book and then what to do with it afterward.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Can you tell us a little bit about your book and about your business?
So I am a semi-retired international speaker. And once I kind of semi-retired a little bit, I went more into coaching. It sounds really glamorous to be a speaker and travel all over, but it can really be hard on your body, on your relationships, on your marriage, all those other different kinds of things. But because of the space I was in, I had the opportunity to share the stage with Jack Canfield and Brian Tracy and Bob Berg and Lisa Nichols of The Secret and blah, 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 all these other people. And because I was in that space, I had been asked um, to create or write and submit chapters for books that they were working on. And so up to the point of ever doing my own book, I was already in 3 books that were big sellers. And I saw what they threw and what they went through, and I learned a few things. But it's one thing to think that you have learned something. It's totally different when you go and you actually try and do it on your own. And that was a real game changer for me. But what I did basically was I went and it's not a very big book, but I made sure that it was all the processes so that when somebody took this book, they would be able to take it and actually make money from it. That was the whole goal. So it's just I laid everything out. And then I used this book in the beginning. I was still speaking quite a bit. And so I would use this book as a way to get people to opt in. And then once I went online, I took a different model so that I was making money from my book, but I wasn't speaking on stages anymore.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So tell me a little bit about this switch to online and what you ended up doing there.
So what I ended up doing was actually things were getting really hard after being on the road for so long. And I was just coming back from this thing where I spoke in London, then I spoke in Amsterdam, then I spoke in Glasgow. So it was like this 3-week run. And if you haven't really been much of a speaker, when you go and speak at an event, unless you're a really big name, which I'm not, you're expected to be there for the event and be on the whole time. So you may only be speaking for 45 minutes, but you have to be on for 2 days. You have to be there so that they can ask questions. You have to play that role. And it's really, really hard. And so when I came home, my husband says, this isn't working for me anymore. This isn't working. And I thought, okay, what do I do? How do I get myself out? So God heard me and he allowed me to get acute adrenal fatigue. And so be careful what you ask for, you just might get it. And so if you've ever had it, it's not depression, it's just that you're so exhausted. So I sat in front of a blank TV screen. I probably for the first month I sat in front of this blank TV screen in a chair and just stared at this TV. I didn't have the energy to do anything else. It was like I was a stoner without the munchies. I just sat there. And I got better. I went through a naturalist who was one of my clients, and I got better. But during that time, my mind was still active, and I thought, I can't do this anymore, not only because of my marriage and our 6 kids and everything like that, but physically I couldn't. So what do I do? So I sat back and I thought, okay, what are the questions that I am asked most often?
Mhm.
And so I was asked, this was back in 2013, so like 8 years ago. And I was asked, how do you make money speaking? How do I become a speaker? How do I book speaking gigs? But the whole point is no matter where you want to be on that spectrum of being a speaker, the bottom line is you want to use it to make money.
Right.
And you just see it as a way that you can take your message to a lot of people at one time. And so that's what I started doing. So I took this process and I thought, okay, what did I do in order to, I could speak for, I didn't worry about a speaker's fee, because I knew that if I spoke for 20 to 25 minutes, especially at some of your free venues like your Rotaries and your local women's groups and stuff like that, I knew, because with a $500 product, I could turn that into $6,000 to $8,000 over the next 2 months,
Mhm.
because of the email sequence and the opt-in that went with it.
Yeah.
And so that's what I kind of developed. But instead of creating this course and then hoping it worked, I actually I think right away I put out on Facebook, hey, I'm taking, 10 clients. I'm going through this process. You're getting it at a really good price, which they did. And I had these 10 clients. So I went through what I had kind of structured in an outline, and I found places where I was really lacking. I didn't explain it very well, or I was missing something that seemed natural to me, but not to them. And then there were other places where I just badgered them with a point that they got really easily. And so I had to backtrack on that. And that was the process. And then from there, I just kept going more and more on social media. So I still spoke a little bit, but
Mhm.
but maybe only 3 or 4 times a year. And that's what I'm
Okay.
going back to now again. It wasn't like I was doing before. And
Mhm.
so one of the keys, and at that point, was a lot of speakers were having books, and that was one of the perks that you could get. So when you're whether you're speaking at a live event, or you're going to be, you're promoting yourself to podcasts, where you could become a guest on a podcast and speak to their audiences. When you have a book that you've written, that adds credibility. You
Right.
need other things besides, but that adds a lot of credibility. But when you're really speaking in person, if you talk about that every person in the room will get a book, depending on what you're getting paid, or what, all those other types of things, it becomes something that can set you apart and get you that speaking opportunity that others don't.
Okay. Yeah, I like that you're using the book to get the speaking opportunities too. That's awesome. Um, so you have this amazing story. I just wanted to pause for a second because we do have people commenting and joining us. So hello, Maureen and Allison and Katie are all on.
Hi,
Uh,
everyone.
Katie says, haha, we always get exactly what you need. I'm glad it ended up being a blessing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think everybody's with you on that. It's funny how these kind of things happen to us and we end up getting on this alternate path. And this led you to, um, you know, changing your schedule up and being able to be a little more available at home and, using this book as leverage. So let's talk a little bit more about the book and some of the ways that we can use our books with podcasts, and a little bit about speaking too, because I know I hadn't mentioned that before, but I would love to know a little more about that too.
So so speaking, regardless of your platform, you want to you want to have it so that you've got something that they will opt in for.
Mhm.
So whether that's a freebie or whether that's your book. Now, with that said, I'm going to come back to the book, because you don't want to be sending your book out for free. And and so understand that. So remind me to come back to that at the end if
Okay.
I don't. Okay, because that's not what I'm telling you to do, because that's a fast ride to broke, and that's not why you were doing any of this, right? And so, but what happens is that you want people to option. It's I call it, your seed, feed, and lead. And so what you're doing is you're seeding your talk with like 3 points from your book, if your book is going to be what you're going to promote. So
Okay.
3 points from your book, and it's not the things that are what you like the most about it, but what will resonate most with the audience. So before you speak, you want to make sure you're choosing the right audience, because not all audiences are created equal.
Mhm.
And so you want to find people who are going to be open to whatever it is you're talking about. Then you choose 3 things from your book. We're going to go with that. But then you're going to tell stories. So you're telling them the what. not necessarily the how. Now, they can go into Google, they can take what you've said, and they can go into Google and find the hows, and that's okay. They've just sifted themselves out. All that means is they're not your ideal client, and it's okay. Bless and release them, because there are a lot of people who are, right? And
Mhm.
but then you're going to want to share stories. So if you're a guest on a podcast, or you're speaking on most stages, when you're getting started, you're going to speak maybe 20 to 25 minutes. Then
Mhm.
those three things you want to pull into a great story. And so in one of mine, I talk about how how you introduce yourself. And so when you were introduced, or when you introduce yourself, you can use that time, instead of having it read like a resume, you can use it to create excitement, or to have people leaning forward, so that ready to take notes before you ever say a word. This is at your intro.
Mhm.
Sometimes you will be able to, sometimes somebody will give your intro, but sometimes they forget. They can't find the sheet, or whatever reason, or they're lazy, and you're going to be expected. It is what it is. It is what and so
Mhm.
one of my clients, if I want to share this, because this is the power of words. So if you guys are authors, you already have this power between your mind and your heart connection, so that you're in alignment with your hand in your pen, whether you're typing it out or writing it. So you have this power within you. So this is how you would do it. So one of my clients, she sold insurance for a life, or she sold funeral insurance for a life insurance company. So do you know what I'm talking about? So it's where you pre-buy your funeral, I guess, is kind of how it talks about. And she was speaking at a woman's event, and she knew that nobody wanted to hear about insurance. She knew nobody wanted to talk about dying. And yet it was a membership only. It was the American Women's Business Association. And so their members are the ones who rotate through and speak. And so she came and she says, okay, everything else looks really good. We don't have the charts, we don't have the graphs, all this other stuff that, that the insurance company says you should have, because that'll get people interested. She didn't want to give these horrible stories about scaring people, because that would just turn them off as well. And so
Mhm.
how did she get them to pay attention from the very beginning, instead of picking up their phones and scrolling and kind of pretending like they were interested? So we worked out her intro, and this is what she did. So this is how I want you to pay attention to this.
Yeah.
So she said, you're probably wondering, why in the world do I sell life insurance? I mean, seriously, it's not like anybody, oh, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to sell life insurance, said no one ever.
Yeah.
So let me tell you how I got into it. When I was 10 years old, my mom died after a long battle with cancer. And it was so hard. And after the funeral, we went home, and my brother went in his room and I went in my room, and I just sat on the edge of my bed. And even though I knew in my little 10-year-old mind that my mom was in a better place and that she wasn't hurting anymore, I was still so sad. So I left my room and I'm walking down the hallway, and I heard my dad and his parents sitting at the kitchen table talking. And my grandpa says, son, you and the kids can come and live with us. You could stay as long as you want. You'd be able to put the house on the market and sell what you needed to, so that you can get those past medical bills paid off and everything else, and kind of get yourself back on the right track. And I stood there and I thought, what? You can't sell this house. This room right here is the room where my mom laid. And when she first got sick, she'd have us come in, and she would tell us all kinds of stories so we would remember her. And that's where then, when she was sicker, we would go in and we would tell stories to her. And this is the closet that I would go to. And sometimes when she was in the hospital, I would go in the closet and I would smell her perfume on her clothes. And it reminded me of the days when she and dad used to go out. They had so much fun together. And I remembered that. And I was just about to run in and say, Dad, you can't sell this house. When my dad said, it's okay. We had life insurance. There's enough money to pay off all of the debts, pay off the mortgage, and still have some money to set aside for the kids' college funds. That is why I sell life insurance. Big difference, right?
Yeah. Wow.
And so as a result, so that's the power of being able to bring in a story. So you all of your people have a gift with their words. It's bringing the emotion into the words so that when it's shared, it touches people in their heart and they go, I don't care if it is life insurance. Oh my gosh, I got to get me some of that. And
Yeah.
that's exactly what happened for her. But that's what you guys have.
Absolutely. So that's a wonderful way to get people started with that connection piece. So you're seeding part of the story with the introduction. What else? What's next?
So after you seeded with the introduction and you've got them where now it's relating to them, it's of interest to them, so they're paying attention and
Yeah.
stuff like that, then it's time to take a little bit more from your book and
Okay.
share little bits of information. So again, it's about 3 tips of
Mm.
things that they can do. And when they do these 3 tips, you're going to seed your freebie in there. So
Mhm.
today I'm going to be sharing 3 tips from my book, The Ultimate Feel Good Sales Method. Now, in these 3 tips, I'm going to be showing you exactly how you can take it and implement it right away. So tip number 1 for my free book, the Ultimate Free Feel Good Sales Method, and then you go in. So you're going to say the name of your book 3 times. You
Okay.
want to make sure that there's a direct correlation between your book and what you're talking about, because when they think, oh my gosh, this was really good, and the 3 things you shared, the natural inclination then is that they want to get the book because they've just learned so many great things. So
Mhm.
in your situation where if you are selling your book, then you would say, so in this book, these are the 3 things I've got now,
Mhm.
and then you would go in and you would share it from that point. You're going to seed each time, and then when you get to the end, they're going to be familiar with the book, and when you say, did you get some value from those 3 tips? Do you think you, and then, and then wait, and if it's a podcast, it's a little bit different. And then
Mhm.
basically just say, here's how you can get your copy. Because trust me, there's so many more golden nuggets in here. But because I wanted to honor your time and the time of our dear host who allowed me to be on here, I was only able to share 3. So here's how you can find out more about getting your own copy. So you're not giving the price, you're not saying any of that, you're just sending them to a landing page that again is going to reiterate the 3 points you talked about and maybe 2 or 3 more.
Mhm.
And then you're going to go from there. They're going to opt in, and and when they opt in, what are they getting? So are you just selling something? That's one way you can do it. I prefer to have something else so that they can get the transcript of what I just talked about. So they've already got, you already shared that. So if you'd like the free transcript on what I talked about, in case you missed some of those, golden nuggets while you were writing and taking notes, go here. And then you'll have that sent to you automatically. Now, what happens when you do that is you're sending the transcripts basically of what you said. So it's not any additional work, but now they're on your email list. They've just told you, they've raised their hand and said they want what you have to offer. So now it's up to you to put your writing cap back on again and create that email sequence so that you're dripping great information with stories on them, and you're having an ask in every single one. Now, an ask, if, I'm assuming most of you are coaches or have some kind of programs that
Mhm.
go along with your book. So what I found to be the most helpful was that like on mine, I had, if you have 10 tips, so you don't want any less than 7, but you want to have like, here's 10 tips that you can get from a free transcript or something like that. Each of your emails is going to go into one of those more in depth. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yeah.
And at the end of each email, so the first 3 or 4, I'm just going to say, we want to condition them. In the words of Tony Robbins, we want to condition them to know that, and we're going to train them to know that we're going to ask them something each time. So when
Mhm.
we do ask them to pull out their credit card to make a purchase or get on the phone with us, it's not like, oh my gosh, he's or she is pitch slapping me now. That's not what we want to do. So we want to condition them. So your first few emails may be, okay, so now that we've talked about blah, 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 grab a pen and paper, write down 3 things that you can see that you're doing really, really well,
Mhm.
that you're proud of, that you see you've made some progress on. Perfect. Then the next one might be, okay, now that we've talked a little bit more about this, what's one thing that you believe you can improve on, and why? Why would that make a difference for your business? And then by the third one, maybe at that point, you're going to say, invite them for a 10-minute or 15-minute discovery call. And
Mhm.
then and then ask them a few questions. And then at that point, if they say, if they seem like a good candidate and they seem interested, then invite them to your 30 minutes so you can go more in depth. That's my process at any rate. And
Mhm.
then because I'm more careful about who I bring into my 30-minute call, I have a 60 to 70% closing ratio into my program. And
Mhm.
which again, it's all about making money. So the book becomes so if you get the programs, now you get the book. If you just want to buy the book, here's where you go to get the book. Or if you send the book out yourself and it's free, but you're doing it with you adding postage, so this is free for only, $4.97, you pay the postage or whatever it might be, then you can do that as well. But the whole point is your book is the carrot that gets them into your list, or the content in the book, and then that's what you use to continue to seed your content through the emails to get them on the phone. And then on the phone, that's when you bring them into your programs. I know that there are some people who I don't want to get on the phone with anybody. You will have a higher conversion into higher price programs if
Mhm.
you learn that process. And again, it's like my process is like at the 30-minute call, I only ask one sales question, and that's at minute 29. I ask, would you like my help with any of this? So it's not, many of us have experienced those calls where it's pitch, 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 pitch. And that's not what this is about. That's not where you have to go with it. But your emails combined with your book and the content within your book, now all of a sudden, that's what can actually feed those high-end programs. And
Mhm.
that's why most of us have written books, I think.
Yes. Yeah. I thank you so much for breaking all of that down for us, because I know it can be overwhelming, because I do talk all the time about how, hey, your book can get you to, selling coaching. But I haven't gone into a lot of the details. So thank you. And I also wanted to say, backing up to where you were talking about how you wrap up your talk. So, you're on the stage and you're wrapping up. I know a lot of people have trouble with, do I just say, hey, go buy my book? I love that you talk about how you seeded that. So they're already interested. They already want it. And you're just saying, hey, this is how you can get more of what you've already gotten. It's like giving them a sample and then saying, oh, you can actually get the whole thing if you would like it. So I love that it's a very soft sort of sale, and it's easy for them too. Um, yeah.
And most places will not let you go out and just say, here's my book, buy it. I mean,
Yeah.
you have to find the back door. So offering the transcript
Mhm.
is a really free way, or is a really easy way, because you can turn your phone on voice memo when you start. You can turn that over to Rev or something like that, and at $1 a minute, they transcribe it. And now you've got the transcribed copy, and ta-da, you're done. You put a cute cover on it and call it a day. And then you give the same talk every time, so you don't have to keep recreating
Right.
it.
Nice, nice. What was the Rev or
Yeah, it's
what's okay?
rev.com. Yeah, so
Okay.
they specialize in that. So I like them better than like going to Fiverr or any place else that I've ever used. You just send them the recording, a couple days later, you got it, and it's all good. And if you give basically the same talk each time, you could turn around and have the talk, and give the talk and send it and get the transcribed copies. It won't be exactly word for word, but
Right.
then you could have that funnel already set up. And that makes a difference too. If you're speaking live, the other key that I would really strongly suggest is that you give people a sheet of paper. Let me see if I find a sheet. So give them a sheet of paper, and on here you have your information at the top,
Mhm.
and then you have the 3 tips, the name of the things that you're going to talk about, and then leave a blank space for them so they can take their own notes.
Okay.
Because I'm not going to be presumptuous enough to know that know, that you're going to want everything I say. I don't know what you know. The other thing is I don't want them reading all of this while I'm talking, because then we
Right.
miss the connection. The bottom third of your page should be a form, and that form, so I put the dotted line, I have them ask their name and their phone number, their email address, and then I have three. There's magic in three. I can't say that enough. Magic in three. So the first one is, yes, I'd like a copy of the transcripts sent to me. So, and then the next one might be, yes, I'd love to schedule a 30-minute strategy session, blah, blah, blah. And then it would be on whatever it is, on how I can, take my book and turn it into a true marketing tool, or, however you want to word that. And
Yeah.
then they could check that if they wanted to. And then the third one is, I like, I think I'm kind of lazy, because I like to turn things into, how can I make this really easy for myself? So my third one is going to be, who else do you know, who do you know, or what organizations do you know that might be interested in having me present this information? And then they would check that. And so I'm not asking, so I'm not asking who it is that they think. I'm just asking them a yes or no question. Then they fill out and then I've got their name, their phone number, and their email. And then I have them say, so I always do it in a weird color. So like a bright yellow, a bright pink, something else, so that it's not white. And then I ask them before I'm done, go ahead and tear that off, leave that on the table where it is. And then I'll make sure that I get the information for you in the next couple of days. And if you do have any questions about what I spoke about, I will be standing over there at the end of the event. So thank you so much for coming. And then I give my quote, and then I move on. And you tell I've done this a few times.
Yeah.
And and what happens is then they give this piece of paper at the bottom. So when they're, whether you're on a podcast or whether you're speaking live, when if you ask them to go and text this number, if you ask them to do this, if you ask them to do that, you're going to lose a lot of people, because the minute the event is over, or you're done speaking, they're on to the next thing. They're checking their phone for messages. They're thinking about, what do I need to do after this event, or where did I park, or, oh my gosh, I need to say something to this person. Out of sight, out of mind. And so our job is to make it as easy as possible for them to get the information. So by leaving that little form on the table, I can go and grab them, and then I'm able to add them into my Aweber, or whatever you use for your autoresponder, so that goes out right away, and that they get in my sequence. And then I also can see who wanted a 30-minute, who wanted, yes. So if it's somebody who wants a 30-minute, I'll send them an email and I'll say, hey, it was so great to meet you. I'm excited about this. Here's the calendar, so that, you can set up a time you'll want to, and then I give my instructions as far as, you'll want to make sure that you've got a pen and paper, limit distractions. Please do not be driving, because you're going to miss some of the golden nuggets that could truly make a difference in your business. This is all about you. And then if it's somebody who is, where they said, yeah, I know somebody who's interested, so, I'd say, hey, Sally, thanks so much for coming. Just wanted to reach out. You said that you knew of an organization or association that might be interested in my talk. I was wondering if you could tell me a little bit more about that. Then she tells me a little bit more, so I know whether or not it even sounds like a good fit. And then I'd say, great, Sally, that sounds really exciting. Let me ask you, do you personally know the person who brings in speakers for that? Well, yeah, I do. Great. Would it be okay with you if you went ahead and did a warm email introduction? Here's what I'll do, is I'll just go ahead and kind of give a little preliminary paragraph I'll send to you. That way you can copy and paste that and put it in. You don't have to worry about what to say about me, just that you heard me and you thought it'd be a great fit. Would that be okay with you?
Wow.
Done. And
Yeah.
then, and now all of a sudden you've got a warm
Yeah.
introduction, instead of a cold lead that you're just calling. You've just changed the game.
Yeah. Oh, that's
So that's
amazing.
how you can take one event and turn it into 2 or 3.
That is phenomenal. Thank you for sharing all of that. I want to shift a little bit now, because I know podcasts are going to be a little bit different. And I know personally, I've been doing a lot more podcasts rather than speaking, especially with COVID, especially with little ones at home. It makes it a little easier to not have to try to drive somewhere and find a sitter and all of that. So with podcasts, since you're not necessarily just sitting there talking and talking and talking off of your own bullet points. You're given questions. How is it that you like to seed your stuff that way?
So, so basically it's the same concept. When you apply, so first of all, you want to look and find podcasts that have your ideal audience in them. And
Yeah.
before you go and you send your information and request to be a guest on this podcast, go through and look at the topics. Is there one that's similar to what you talk about? And if so, listen to it so that when you send that email to the person who's the podcast host, you can say, I see you did one similar to it, but this is the slant I take, and this is why it's different. That way you're showing that podcast host that you did your homework, that this isn't just a copy and paste, but that you're trying to make a difference and match and align with what they are doing for their podcast. So that would be the first thing. So when you when you are submitting for a podcast, you will also submit your what they call a one sheet. And in your one sheet, you want to list the 3 questions that you want them to ask you.
Okay.
And so then, then you're already prepared. Again, one talk, you do the same thing. You don't change your talk, you change your audience. That's all you're doing. And so you're giving the same stories, the same thing. You've already got your landing page. If you'd like a transcript of this, now that may not be the same in a podcast, and so you may want to change it up. So most podcasts anymore aren't just audio, so you can get them where they're audio only, but most podcast hosts are also putting those on Zoom and on their own website. They're going to give you the link, and they expect you to market it as well, because they want you to drive traffic to their podcast as a result. So, of your being a guest. So, you're working hand in hand with them to bring in more people into the podcast. But then your ask, again, might be, you want to send them to some kind of a page where you get an opt-in. So what is it? So if you'd like, like the top 10 things, I talked about, the top 10 tips on how to speak your way to success. I've shared 3 of these with you. If you'd like all 10 of them, please go here, and that will be sent to you immediately. And I promise you're going to get some great nuggets. Seriously, imagine your name up in lights. If that appeals to you, go ahead, opt in now.
Okay.
Did that make sense? So it's kind of the same process. The only thing that's different is you haven't had a chance to build the same rapport with people that you do when you're actually there belly to belly. And so it's really critical that your email sequence takes them through the process. And it's really important then that your ask and getting them to your landing page is powerful without being pushy. It's all about what's in it for them. And so ego is the number one reason why people do things. And so that's like when I said, imagine your name up at lights. That appeals to their ego. Anybody who wants to do this, that's going to be the right person. Go, oh my gosh, that would be so cool. Oh, wow. You know what I'm saying? And so then they're going to be more apt to opt in. So make sure that your ask matches, but you've got to have the energy. And I'm not talking like spastic. The energy has to come within that you believe, that you've experienced, that that it works. And then once they're in your list, it may be buying your book, or maybe the podcast host will put up where here's the link to go buy your book if you're selling it off Amazon or something else, not where you're shipping it yourself. And I've seen people be really, really successful with that. However, I like to get them on my list first and then send them the link. If you'd like to, and I've got this, so maybe it's where you have the book. So if you go ahead and opt in, I'll send you the link on where to buy the book. But in addition, I've got 3 bonuses you're going to get. So now all of a sudden you've just enticed them that, oh, wait, I'm going to get more if I go over here. Yeah, I'm going to do it. And then that way they get on your list. So you have a chance to maybe convert them into one of your programs, or at least get them on a call with you.
Okay. Awesome.
And podcasts, again, podcasts last for a long time. So there was a survey done. I think I shared this with you. 56.9% of the people who listen to podcasts, who returned the survey results, stated that they had purchased a product or service because they heard about it on a podcast. 56.9. That's a lot. That's a high, high number.
Yeah.
And so it really makes sense. And because in being a guest on a podcast, you don't have to leave your house. It doesn't cost you any money. You could be sitting there in your slippers if you want. They're pre-recorded. So if you're sitting there and all of a sudden Johnny starts screaming, the podcast host isn't going to be real happy, but they might be able to cut that part out and come right back to the question and go from there in the editing. So you could be on 2-3 podcasts every week if you wanted to, and really gain traction. And all of those are then, and then if you go ahead and you post them, and then you put them and put your episodes like on LinkedIn and on all of your other social sites, now all of a sudden Google is seeing it everywhere, and they're verifying because it's third party, because it's on Stitcher, because wherever the podcast is being hosted. And now all of a sudden that's going to rank you really high, so that with those keywords, you're going to come up there a lot faster.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that too. That is, very important. If somebody is out there Googling you, you want them to find all of this stuff, especially associating you with your niche. So that is definitely important.
Right. Yeah, it's just making sure that you put in the right keywords when you're putting in some of these things, and it will make a big difference.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, we've been on here for quite a while. I love hearing you talk and tell us all this fabulous stuff. You're a wealth of information. So thank you so much for sharing all of that with us. I haven't seen any questions come up in the comments, people saying thank you, of course, and loving the transcript idea and some of the other things that you had to say. So I did want to just wrap this up and, let people know where they can find you. And of course, I'm sure you have a freebie and all that good stuff set up. So go ahead and let us know about that.
I do. So if you, because I have an error in it, so I have, it's a how-to guide on how to have a 30-minute strategy session that's highly converting. And so it's just a free guide. It's a template, walks you through each step and the psychology behind it. If you send an email to me, Sue@SueHenryTalks, Sue@SueHenryTalks.com, and just ask for that. Hopefully by this afternoon, my tech person will fix whatever I thought I was doing with it. And techie is not my thing. And then I'll be able to get you the link so that you can go in. That 30-minute strategy session and converting them into other programs has been a game changer and a money changer. And I would love to be able to share that with you as well. So thank you so much. I really appreciate this. It was fun.
Yeah, this is fun. I love chatting with you. And we will put your email address in the comments below so everybody can get that. And where can we find your book? Can you hold up your book again and make sure everybody knows about it?
On Amazon.
Okay.
The Feel Good Sales Guide or sales method. I should remember it, but and it tells you exactly what to do and how to do it. And my whole thing is no pressure, no obligation, no pitch slapping, because who wants slapped?
Yeah, nobody likes that. So
Yeah.
again, thank you so much. And if you're watching this on the replay, make sure you drop the questions below and we will get to them.
That would be awesome. So thank you so much. I appreciate it. You guys have an incredible week. I know that it will be.
Yes.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.